quit comparing your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 20. So I was at basketball the other week and had a guy come up to me and he's like, dude, what have you been doing? You look great. Like, last time I saw you, wasn't looking so great, a couple of years back. And he's like, I need to get onto whatever you're doing. And he gave me a quick rundown of what he was doing at the moment. And he's like, but, you know, whatever you're doing, I need to be doing that as well. And I said to him, I was like, you don't need to worry about what I'm doing. We need to worry about what you're doing and where you're at. And I often think this is one of the biggest problems, and as I'm saying here, like, the same for me. Like, I'm coming out here to lead by example, and I want to lead by example. I want to show you the way. I want to give you the tools to transform your life, because it matters. Transforming your life and becoming the greatest version of yourself fucking matters. It's a really, like, I don't think there's anything else that matters as much as being the greatest version of you, so that you can be the greatest version of yourself for others, so that you can lead by example for your kids, for your wife, for those around you, so that you can show up with energy, with drive, with focus to excel in life, so that you can give more back, so that you can lead more, so that you can, well, show up better. What's a better use of your time than doing that? But the problem is that, well, I'm 580 days into this process. What I'm doing now is drastically fucking different to what I was doing at the beginning. And look, I made a lot of mistakes, like so many mistakes. Like, it doesn't matter how long you've been in this game. There are lessons to be learned in playing this game that, as you get better at it, as you go through the processes, you will learn better ways to do things. You will adjust and tweak and figure it out. Like, if I had to start again right now, I reckon I could halve, if not more, the time it took me to get to this point. But I had to go through the mistakes first, and I had to figure it out. And that's part of why you will pay someone, so that you can jump ahead. But I didn't have someone who was doing what I wanted to be done. I had to learn the mistakes, and that's not just the physical. That's the mental and the discipline and the focus and figuring out where the pitfalls were and when you'll fall back and all these kinds of things. But you can't be comparing where someone else is to where you're at. And the example I would give is, and I've often liked this analogy, is when we're working on ourselves, our fitness, our bodies, these kinds of things, I like to imagine myself as a sculptor. And I am sculpting out this artwork of my life, the best physique, the best mental fortitude, the best, discipline and focus and drive, and the best life possible. So I'm sculpting away and I'm carving away the things that don't matter. It's like you got a giant block of marble, and we chip away. Now, when you're first starting out, you're just breaking away massive bits of the things that don't serve you. You're taking the big hammer and the big chisel, and just massive bits are falling off. As you get further down the line, you're now with the really finite ones, and you're just gentle, minute details. It's the difference between figuring out the 95 percentile things, the things that are going to make that massive jump for you, versus you get far enough down and now we're playing in the 1%ers. And this is a very big separator for this. Like, my workout today, for example, I'm now at the point where I'm trying to fix muscle imbalances. Like, I'm looking at the body and the symmetry and stuff like that, which is completely unnecessary for the majority of people. Like, it doesn't matter if you have minute asymmetrical things. It's not the end of the world. You're just trying to get stronger, fitter, healthier, have the capacity to do the things you want to do. So when you're playing that game, you focus on the prime movers. You focus on the things that are going to massively level you up. So like when I first started out, and how I would still do it to this day, we'd be focusing on things that are going to strip away as much fat as possible. They're going to improve your conditioning. They're going to improve your health and fitness. They're going to make you strong and fit. I did lots of kettlebell swings, I did prime movers, I did more conditioning style things, these types of things, and I would build it that way for you if, you got 20, 30 kilos of fat to lose, which is where I was when I started. You're focusing on the prime movers. We're looking at nutrition. We're getting you into your weighted walks. We're pushing the limits. We are trying to move the needle in the big direction. You don't need to be worrying about like food timing. You don't need to be worried about the timing of your walks and your workouts and, these kinds of things. If we're trying to tighten up your sleep or these things that they matter. But when the 95 percentile things aren't working, playing in the 1% doesn't fucking matter. We don't need to talk about filtering your water. We don't need to talk about the quality of the meat. We don't need to talk about these kinds of things. We can, but oftentimes people get lost in the minutia and don't do the things. We need to focus on the prime movers. We need to focus on, what's the main things that you're eating? What are the main exercise drivers that you're doing? How much exercise are you actually doing? These are the things that we need to focus on. We need to get them right. And then we can play in the 1%. I really enjoy and find it fascinating. I don't like the term, but the biohacking world. Your saunas, your ice baths, your red light therapies, these kinds of things. I think they're fascinating. I love to play in those. But for your average person, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter because you haven't nailed the fundamentals. It goes back to what we were talking about the other day. The basics are what are going to get you there. And once you've established a strong foundation and the basics are nailed, then you can add on. You never remove the basics. The basic 5 that I teach, that we're going to start you on. Work out every day. Weight training, work out every single day. Go for a weighted walk every single day. In an animal-based diet. Meat, fruit, sweet potato, that's about it really. Every single day. Drink 4 liters of water every single day. Take a daily photo every single day. You do these things, your life's going to fucking change. You're going to be a different human being very rapidly if you give it intensity, consistency, and effort. Those are the foundational principles. They are still the things I do every single day. Now, the type of my workouts, as I said, have adjusted. I'm now playing in the 1%. I am nitpicking the shit out of myself because that's what I like and what I want to work on. I still do the fundamental factors. I still do those things and continue to push forward. But because I've nailed the fundamentals and I've nailed the 95%, now I can play in the 1% things. It's a very different game. But most people want to jump to the 1%. They want to look at the fancy things. They want to play with the toys. They want to look at the stuff that is cool and exciting and intriguing and jump past the things that are boring as fuck but deliver the results. You need to start at chapter 1, not chapter 20. And, people don't like this when I say it, but it's true. You need to earn the right. You need to earn the right to the other things. It's the same as so within my nutrition programming for myself, I get 10 days off every 126. I don't always take them, but I get 10 days off. They must be pre-planned. They must be saved for things that matter. And it's not a whim. So it's like my wife's birthday, anniversaries, Christmas, these kinds of things. I get to now play with those things. I get to take a day off because I've earned the right to it. You haven't earned the right to it yet. People want to talk about their cheat days and reload days and refeed days and all this kind of stuff. You haven't built the discipline, the consistency, the track record to play that game yet. We need to take you back to chapter 1. We need to take you back to the beginners. You're playing fucking T-ball. You know, you're shooting on a lowered hoop. We are still in the beginning phase. And there is nothing wrong with that. But you need to respect where you're at in the game. You need to play the game at the level that you're at. And you earn the right down the track to do the other stuff. You earn the right down the track to have the fun things. But you gotta put in the grind first. You gotta put in the work. My minimum requirement for my program is 126 days without a miss. And people flip their shit. They're like, 126 days? Yeah. But this again comes back to that mindset, that mentality. You have to earn the right to get the other stuff down the track. You have to earn the right to other fun things. Why? Because you haven't established the foundation. You haven't established the 95%. Don't fuck with the 1% because you're not going to see any change because you haven't done the 95% that will see the results from the little tweaks. So it's 126 days. No exceptions, no miss, no mistakes, no back steps. And people are like, that's really harsh. How can anyone do that? Well, that's the problem with the mentality that we're fighting against. You want to stay stuck in mediocrity. You want to stay stuck in average. I want to break you free of this. I want you to demand greatness of yourself. I want you to step the fuck up and see what is humanly possible. 126 days in the grand scheme of your life, pardon me, is nothing. 126 days is absolutely nothing if you look on the spectrum of your life. But you're too caught up in right here, right now. It's the sedation culture. It's the I want it now culture. It's quick fix. You can't quick fix your life. You can't quick fix into the greatest version of yourself. You have to demand greatness. You have to put in the work. You have to build out the credibility with yourself so that you can move on to the next phase, so that you can play in the 1% games. This is the separator, and it's why it's so phenomenally rare these days to see someone do it. Because everybody wants to talk about quick fix. They want to do something and then revert back to who they are. No, you need to fundamentally change who you are. You don't start at chapter 1, read to chapter 3, and then go fuck this and go back to chapter 1. That would be the stupidest thing, just rereading the start of this book over and over and over again. But that's what most people are doing. We want to change the game. We want to flip the script. We want to build you into the man that you know you should be. And it means that you have to fundamentally change how you view this. 126 days isn't that long. It really isn't. It sounds daunting, it sounds scary, it sounds wild, but I promise you, it's really not. And once you get into it, and once you commit to it, and you see who you become on the other side, you'll realize why A, it was so hard to begin with, and B, why it's a game changer on the other side. Because it takes 126 days to replace negative habits with positive habits. It takes a commitment and a follow through, but we are fundamentally rewriting who you are. But you have to start at that chapter 1. You have to start with that commitment, and you have to start with, I am going to finish through this process and become the greatest version of myself. Because on the other side is a different man, a different father, different husband. You will show up in ways that you didn't even know were possible. But you have to start with that commitment. You have to start with where you're at. You have to start with the 95 percentiles, the basic things that are going to shift who you are fundamentally. And then we can play in the fun little things. But you have to start exactly where you are. But that first and most important step is that you quit accepting mediocrity and you start demanding your greatness. When you do this, everything will change for you.